Everything, no matter what it is completely relaxed. Even when we look at something that just seems so incomprehensible, like the planet Earth. The planet Earth is just completely at rest, doing its thing. It's not bothering anybody. It's just completely at rest, at ease, hanging in the cosmos, like a ripe fruit. Everything about us is just like that. There really isn't anything to understand. The natural ease of our being is super complete in itself. It's not anything we need to get, that we need to understand, that we need to study about, that we need to pursue a course of action in order to attain. It's already present. If we think that we need to pursue a course of action in order to attain it, then we'll be adding a whole lot of new points of view to our already accumulation of points of view about who we take ourselves to be. Who we've taken ourselves to be then has added to it a new angle. We've had the accumulation of points of view of whatever we take ourselves to be, just usually somebody who needs to be fixed in some way, who needs to be reformed, transformed, or whatever, and needs to undertake some kind of rigorous process to undo the badness at the core. So to undo this person who somehow fell out of everything. But, nothing ever falls out of everything. And no one ever falls out of everything. Everything is just simply relaxed as it is. And there's no possibility whatsoever of anything or anyone ever existing elsewhere. So, just relax. That's the only message there is. And if you don't even want to relax, if you just hear about the nature of reality, conviction will die. However, if you feel there's anything you need to change, any thought, any emotion, any experience, then it's going to be very difficult to relax. We learn things about ourselves and we accept them as true. So from the time we're born, we learn all kinds of points of view about who we are. And many of us just accept those as true. So we learn, most of us, that certain of our thoughts are good thoughts and other thoughts are bad thoughts or negative thoughts, and that certain of our emotions are good emotions and other emotions are negative emotions, and we learn that certain of our experiences are good and others are bad, and that we're supposed to try to get a lot of the good and build a Mount Everest of good thoughts, good emotions, good experiences. So many of us spend all of our lives like machines, like robots that are just piling up in some kind of factory like assembly line, all these good points of view about ourselves, just hoping somehow we'll disassociate ourselves from the negative and end up being totally positive. Well, when it's described in that way, it sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Because with that, there's never arriving anywhere. All the points of view, no matter what they are, they're just like information in an infinite field. They're completely unpredictable, and they're completely circumstantial. Whether it's the idea of being someone or being no one or whatever it is. Many times when we've trained ourselves to think that certain of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences are negative or bad, and that we need to get other kinds of experiences, thoughts, and emotions, it can be difficult to rest. We might have thoughts like, well, how am I going to know what's right and what's wrong if I don't decide on what's good and bad in my thinking and in my emotions? And that is one way to look at things, to look at the world in terms of good and evil. That's a certain worldview. And it has a certain kind of wisdom that we could call conventional or ordinary wisdom. But if we really want to know the absolute true nature of reality, the knowing that is beyond all knowing, the learning that is beyond all learning, then we need to get acquainted with the wisdom that is at the basis of all appearances, whether we judge them to be good or bad. All appearances, no matter what they are equal, and rearranging them into positive and negative won't create a positive world, or it also won't create well-being within us. It might kind of neutralize some things within us, but it will not result in consummate well-being. The consummate well-being that is the ease of being, that is the absolute essence of everything. So rather than continue to judge and analyze and stand over yourself like a taskmaster with a whip, just relax. There's never been anyone who's enslaved to any point of view. And it may seem that way, but it only seems that way. It isn't true. No matter what appears within you, say your thing is depression and you've been depressed all your life on and off, or maybe on all the time. And so you have this constant nagging point of view of depression. And whenever it comes up, you feel like you need to do something about it, either avoid it somehow by doing whatever you do to avoid it, or replacing it with something else, replacing it with a lot of activity or something to get you out of it. Instead of using any of those antidotes, when the depression comes up, just rest without doing anything, without seeking anything, without describing anything about the state that appears. Once the story appears about the point of view, then we're off into elaboration and off into all kinds of points of view that support a certain kind of reality that can be labeled uncomfortable. Now, there are many fields of knowledge that describe all kinds of things. So when it comes to depression, that can be described in many ways. And today we have all kinds of books on philosophy, on psychology, and we can try to figure out why we're depressed and what the origin of it was. You see, the thing about that is that all these fields of knowledge are always changing. They're never saying anything definitive about the nature of who we are. So what seems so advanced now, like psychoanalysis and things like that, 200 years ago it was unknown, and probably 15 years from now it'll be ridiculous. What has no independent origin cannot last, no matter what it is, and no matter how evolved it might be. So, even though we have all these forms of communication today that are completely invisible and indivisible in a certain way, where we can communicate with each other all over the globe without ever seeing anybody, that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago, that there could be intimate relationships built without ever seeing anyone, and that there would be a real immediacy to that through constant communication, through some kind of invisible ground. But even beyond that ground, no matter how advanced it might be, of current networking or what might come in the future with optics or whatever it is, beyond that, we're always already mutually enriching and communicating with everyone without any kind of material means whatsoever. So see, when we just relax, we can see a lot more about ourselves and the world we live in. We can see that even though we have these tremendous advances today, they're completely temporary. They're completely temporary. What just 15 years ago, what was considered the epitome in the internet today is considered absurd. You know, it was nothing. It was just a simple beginning. It wasn't even a drop of water in the ocean. So this is how quickly things are changing. And in a way, we need to catch up with our power to materialize all these things, that we're really materializing all these things, but we don't really have a context for what we're materializing. Do you see what I mean? We're materializing just to materialize without any context for it. Whereas when we're relaxed in the open spaciousness of wisdom, then wisdom is the context for everything that is materialized. So that's a very important distinction. Materialization for materialization's sake can just end up being pell-mell, helter-skelter, without having any meaning